In order for life to be stable, we must have hope. If you don't have hope, you end up in war, you end up in hate, you end up in suicide or depression or any of the rest of it. You must have hope. Therefore, you must find something to build hope off of, so that you can, in fact, survive and be happy and work for yourself and things like that. So the first thing is, in this situation, we must obey the law. By that I mean constitutional law, which is created by the preamble. That is our contract with ourselves, which unites us. We have to choose democracy for ourselves, not just accept whatever some employee says we have to do. We don't have to do that. We are the law. We are the nation. We are the world. And by our choice, we become rulers of ourselves by creating the law which is enforced upon our leaders. That is democracy. And we are capable of that because we are capable of creating the law for ourselves. And of course, redress in this USA is what allows us to create that law legally. It is our legal enforcement of democracy. It's First Amendment, redress of grievances, or we find you not worthy of our trust, and therefore we're going to investigate the evidence that is or is not in support of what is true and what the cost of being wrong is. That is our democracy, that's our right, that's our nation, that's our world. You don't get to be ruler with absolute authority or absolute freedom or any of that. We are the people who own this nation. We create the work, we create the logistics, we create the opportunities, and you, in this America, as leaders, every single one with a diploma, have been trampling all of those rights, destroying everything that is democracy, and bankrupting the entire nation just to play your games and have toys, even mutilating nature on purpose to try to prove you are gods, not men or women or former classmates. You are former classmates. So the deal is that we must organize ourselves. We have to stop believing in whatever you want to believe in. What media tells you is not true. Just assume it's not true. Whether it is or not doesn't make any difference. Assume it is not true because it hasn't been proven by the evidence to be true. Except that we must know the evidence to make a decision about what is or is not true. Stop being afraid of being whatever it is you're afraid of, because the end result is that we are facing our own extinction, and that is far worse than any man or woman even can cause in you. An entire dying world. Do you really want Putin or Trump or anybody holding the keys to nuclear war? They are not worthy. They are not anywhere as close to being, it's insane. Utterly and hopelessly insane. We have to do better. We have to take that weapons away, and we have to do that with world law. So stop being a cult, which means don't believe your leader. Don't believe the university is the expert. And after all, take a look at global warming. They bought the expert. Take a look at all the poison that is being dumped and has been dumped. They bought the expert. Take a look at all the pollution. They bought the expert. Because you can buy any expert you want. That's the price of being human. They'll sell you out. Traders exist everywhere. They're your family until a better deal comes along. Then they'll sell you out. So don't do that. In other words, we have to organize ourselves so that we have a means to fight for ourselves. And by organizing, I mean we have to understand that there are logistics involved. We have to eat, we have to sleep, we have to have water, we have to have shelter. We can't just do it on our own. not as a world being threatened. We have to do it together. We have to do it as a nation. We have to do it as, as women or men or young or old or whatever it is. We have to do it together. So we have to understand that the purpose of our choosing to be a democracy, a literal democracy, which means that we the people decide, not our employees, we the people decide. And constitutional laws created, or the rules of governing were created in 1779 or some such thing, and they're no longer current. And we don't need an electoral college to decide for us. In other words, we have to rearrange the Constitution a bit. So that's our responsibility. We have to, make the decision to govern ourselves and take the responsibility for that action. That is an action, which means that you made the decision on your own, and you have to accept the consequences on your own. It's rather like gambling. You put your money out there and say, I want your money, so I'm going to gamble. But they take yours instead. And that's what you chose. You chose a world filled with weapons of mass destruction. You chose a world where the university leads. You chose a world where you believe in COVID, even though it was never proven. You believe in everything because, you want to. You want to believe. Because that allows you the excuse that you're not guilty. I am innocent, I just believed. That's wrong. You believe, therefore you are guilty. You hid, therefore you are guilty of the consequences of that. You ran away, therefore you are guilty of the consequences of that. You created murder and all kinds of war, and you are responsible for the consequences of that. You believed in a leader, and you were responsible for the consequences of that. In other words, we have to construct values that make a difference to our lives, to our future, to ourselves, to our world. And we cannot do that without love, because love creates all the values that have a value. Everything else is hate, or it's just belief, which is an animal. And hate is, of course, just wants you, or the foundation of hate is arrogance, apathy, and disrespect, and their purpose is for you to believe, fear, and obey. That's, so they can judge you and turn you into their slaves. We need to identify what law is required to ensure that our leaders obey us, to ensure that we have justice in the courts, to ensure that fair play is found for everyone, not just the rulers who want to take everything away. And of course, in this I live in Illinois, where bankruptcy is just as common as in the U.S. Nation. You can one of the things that clearly spell out what is here in Illinois is U of I in Urbana. They spent $130 million for a emperor's box on top of their football stadium. They use six days a year, maybe. Or they spent $159 million for the Assembly Hall renovation and did absolutely nothing but parade up a little bit. So all the money went somewhere else. But you see, the university rules the Illinois government. The university does everything it wants to do and sends us the bill. They create pensions for themselves. They do anything and everything that they want, just like in U.S. government. And no doubt, governments around the world. A blanket statement is that the university is a problem, but it is not. The problem is that the elite who run the university, the elite who make the decisions for that money or that debt for that enslavement of us all, is the problem. We need to dig them out of their hole and change their lives, just like they changed ours. So, we have to, you have to sign your name, which means not me too, me too, me too, as is an animal does, but I decided for myself that we must have hope, we must have democracy, we must protect our world and our lives and our nation and our future. We must protect the children. We must do what we must do and let truth decide what we can do. And we orchestrate that belief, that purpose, that desire by choosing to assemble ourselves. Go to your religion or go to your whatever it is, and make the decision that we all need to participate in this. We all need to become we the people, not some, U.S. is a communist nation. Only a tiny few decide. That's communism. Only a tiny few decide. They claim to be experts, but they are, they govern us in ways that created horror in the future. They said that only the children will pay. $100 trillion worth of only the children will pay. It ain't real. And they collected all they could collect, and then they spent more, which is a tax on us that we did not consent to, bankrupting us. We did not consent to. The Constitution does not give them any right to bankrupt us. The Constitution requires that we should be sheltered, we should be protected in our lives and our future and our homes and our everything. And they stole that. They denied that. They traded us for a tragedy in the future so that a few, or for that matter, the whole society could claim to be rich. For the last 50 years I heard nothing but, I want to be rich, I want to be rich, I want to be rich. And so you lied and you cheated and you stole from the future because you figured you're going to die first. Well, guess what? You didn't quite die soon enough, but it's coming soon. Because we can't survive what you've been doing. We can't survive a world that has been ransacked for every resource there is so that you could throw it away in the trash. Can't survive an ocean that's been completely demolished. And if you want to save anything about the coral reefs, you're going to pump water up from the depths onto the coral reefs to cool them down. And you can do that with wave motion. But nonetheless, there's any number of things that have to be done. We all have to participate in the outcome of what we're going to do. You don't get to run away. Our entire world is at stake. Doesn't matter if you're prettier than anybody else. It doesn't matter if you're richer than anybody else or poorer than anybody else or whatever it is. It does not matter because our world is at risk. Our world is being overheated. Our world is being threatened in every possible way. And our leaders are all university born, indoctrinated, identified as cult worshippers so that they were mimicking, the path to a diploma is memorize it, mimic it back, and repeat it as we tell you to do. And if you don't do that, you don't get a diploma. And if you don't get a diploma, you don't get to lead, and you don't get to participate in whatever it is that leaders do. Because a diploma is their key, just like every other nobility. They want to rule, they rule by claiming this is their right. Well, it's not. It is their fault. This is, where we get off and go wrong. If you look at the future, it is horrifying. Go ahead, look at the future. It is horrifying. Not because I say so, because the evidence proves it is so. And you can say, well, we've lived for 70 years with weapons of mass destruction. Now, why should we believe they're going to be used now? Well, we are very, very lucky that they haven't been used already. But we can't go back once they are. If they release any of the biological weapons or horrifying disease, you will know it. There is no escape from that. It will destroy life on Earth. If they release enough atomic bombs, they'll release them all. You won't escape that. That's the end of it. The end of it. Because you said, it doesn't matter. We don't care. You said there's nothing we can do. But there is. We are a democracy. In other words, we rule ourselves by the law we create and enforce. Think about that. We rule ourselves by the law we create and enforce. We are not ruled by rulers. We rule ourselves. And we have to create the law that we all agree on. In other words, so that we can understand it and enforce it. We don't want someone else to create the law for us. They create it with all kinds of mazes and foreign language so that we do not understand how to protect ourselves. We must create the law that we understand so that we can protect ourselves and our world. Do that, and things will improve.